So, folks, we have to talk about Omar Fateh. For those of you who don't know who Omar Fateh is, he is running to be the next mayor of Minneapolis. And Mehdi Hassan, you quiet down. I know you're eager to talk to Omar Fateh, but we gotta introduce the segment first. Yeah, Omar Fateh, he's great. We've talked about him a few times here on the show. There's a good video going over his various policies for Minneapolis. He's got a lot of ideas, and it's really quite the juxtaposition between him and his opponent, who is the current mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey or Frey. It really depends. Mehdi Hassan calls him Frey throughout this entire interview. I have always thought it was Frey. Who's to say? But Jacob Frey is basically running on one policy position, and that is he will maintain the status quo and hire more cops. And that is basically it. And in a time when Donald Trump is threatening to move ICE into the city or mobilize the National Guard to send to Minneapolis, it's a very scary time here in the middle of the Midwest, right? Omar Fateh actually has ideas. He has ideas to revitalize various specific business neighborhoods within Minneapolis. He has ideas when it comes to public transit. He has ideas when it comes to housing. He has ideas when it comes to drugs, etc. He's got a lot of ideas, and they're pretty great ideas. The policies are wonderful. And again, my previous video on Omar Fateh goes a little bit more in depth into the policies. All that being said, there's precious little actual press about Omar Fateh that relies on him in his own words. You can find very small scale appearances here and there, but Minneapolis does not have the same profile as places like New York City. It is a large city here in the Midwest, but it's not, the city. So I thought it was really fascinating that Mehdi Hassan invited Omar Fateh onto his show and gave him national exposure. And I think that that's really wonderful and really important. And especially as we are getting down towards election day here in the Minnesota primary for the mayoralty, I need your help. Okay, this is the call to action. First, like, comment, and subscribe. Second, there is an event that is taking place on October 27th and November 2nd, a virtual phone bank for Omar Fateh, as well as a member of the Parks Board named Michael Wilson. And for those of you who are willing to help mobilize, even in the Midwest, for socialist, leftist causes, this is an excellent opportunity, regardless of where you are, to join in digitally and help spread the word about Omar Fateh. Because one of the things that is important to note is that he is a socialist. He has been a champion in the state legislature. He's the chair of the higher education in the state Senate, and he actually was instrumental in getting legislation passed that made college tuition free to any kid from a family that makes under $80,000 a year. Not only that, but he passed legislation that made test strips available and decriminalized them here in Minnesota. And for those of you who don't know why that's important, basically fentanyl test strips up until this legislation was passed were treated as drug paraphernalia, meaning if you had test strips on you, you could be jailed, you could be prosecuted, you'd be charged with crimes. And his legislation has led to something like 1 million test strips in Hennepin County alone being distributed. And that what those allow you to do is they allow you to test drugs to make sure they're not laced with fentanyl. It allows you to make sure you're not going to accidentally overdose yourself if you're going to do drugs, which is really, really important. That is one of those life-saving things. It's pretty important stuff. So, he has done really good work, and he's not born, outside of the United States. He was born in Washington, D.C. He moved to Minnesota and Minneapolis, and he ran for state legislature, and he won, and he beat an incumbent, and he won 80% of the vote, and then he won 90% of the vote in the general. Like, people thought he was doing such a good job, they reelected him with 90% of the support of people who voted in that election. Okay? And he's done such a good job, as, by the way, a publicly avowed socialist, that he's really a rising star within the local political scene. And I think that we can expect really great things from him, but we need to help him get elected as mayor of Minneapolis. Like, this dude has the juice. He has the actual policies needed. He has vision. He has a dedication to making this country a better place. And let me pull up his campaign video.
Candidate who has a shot to be Minneapolis' next mayor, Minnesota State Senator Omar Fateh.
Omar Fateh.
Omar Fateh.
Who is Omar Fateh?
Fateh had more than 60.
Also, I'm pretty sure that was Sam Cedar's voice.
Minneapolis. All I have to say is, wow. For the first time in history, the Minneapolis DFL endorsed a candidate against an incumbent mayor. That candidate? Me. On November 4th, we have a choice between a mayor who has had 7 years and failed to deliver, or new leadership that actually answers to the people. More of the same, or an opportunity to build an affordable city accountable to us. Look, Minneapolis is done with broken promises, done with vetoes that protect the powerful, and done with Mayor Frey. Frey has a $500,000 war chest. He's lined up deep-pocketed PACs backed by MAGA millionaires trying to buy this election. As much as they want to pretend, us winning isn't that much of a long shot. We have something they don't. Thousands of neighbors on the phones, at the doors, building something real in every corner of this city. Because here, we know people power always wins over big money, any day. Join Team Fateh today and have a stake in building this city that we all want to call home. An affordable city, accountable to us.
It's good stuff. Like, he's got a good message. He's got the juice. And again, just to give a brief overview here, you go to his website, and I'm not going to go through each point like I do in the deeper video, but he's got, look at all of these. Each one of these is a multi-bulleted plan on what to do in each of these, reforming public safety. Dude has plans and has a vision to improve the city that I live in, and I would appreciate all of y'all giving your support to get this man elected. Again, gonna link one more time here in chat. Omar's gonna win, not without our help. He's not. So let's take a look at his interview with Mehdi Hasan.
After his big New York City primary win in June shocked the Democratic establishment, socialists like Zohran Mamdani are not just gaining popularity, but actually being recognized as serious candidates in elections across the nation. One of those key elections is the Minneapolis mayoral race, where Democratic Socialist State Senator Omar Fateh is now just 5 points behind incumbent Democratic Mayor Jacob Frey, who is seeking re-election for a third term. And like Mamdani, Fateh is no stranger to hateful attacks from the right. Since gaining popularity, he has been the subject of racist and Islamophobic tweets from MAGA influencers like libs of TikTok and even the late Charlie Kirk. But that's not the only hurdle Fateh's had to overcome, because he recently lost the endorsement of the Democratic Farmer Labor Party, the DFL, after Mayor Jacob Frey filed a formal challenge accusing the DFL convention of a flawed voting process. But Fateh is not backing down, with key endorsements from the Democratic Socialists of America and the Sunrise Movement, among others. His grassroots campaign continues to defy all odds and unite voters from many walks of life. So, Can Omar Fateh actually be the next mayor of Minneapolis? He joins me now to discuss. Thank you so much for coming on Mayor the Unfiltered.
Thank you so much for having me.
You made history back in 2020 when you became the first Muslim and the first Somali American to join the Minnesota Senate, to be elected to the Senate. What made you take the leap from state senator to now running for the mayorship, the mayoralty of Minnesota's largest city?
Well, Minneapolis has been through a lot. It's been through a global pandemic, the murder of George Floyd, which actually also occurred in the district that I represent, a crisis in public safety, and an affordable housing emergency. But at every turn, our mayor has failed to meet the moment, and he has blocked and vetoed solutions that would have supported renters, our essential workers, our immigrants, our unhoused neighbors, and he's been set on protecting the status quo rather than everyday people.
So let's dig into that. How does your vision for Minneapolis differ from incumbent Mayor Jacob Frey's? What are you looking to accomplish that he hasn't been able to accomplish in the 8 years he's been in office?
Absolutely. Well, following the murder of George Floyd, he pledged to reform public safety. And 5 years later, there's still no plan. Our vision of public safety includes one in which when you call 911, you get the appropriate response at every call. And that actually jives well with what I've been hearing at the Capitol. We've heard from law enforcement saying we can't respond to every single call. A city report came out showing that 47% of 911 calls can be diverted away from officers. And so we can have alternatives to policing, but we need to increase that funding, things like BCR, behavioral crisis response, mental health workers, so that we can have law enforcement that focuses on violent crime and does that job.
How worried are you that you're...
Again, I think that this is the way. Like, focusing on, we need to narrow the scope of what police are being asked to do, because they are being asked to do too many things. And by being asked to do too many things, they are putting the public at risk. Like, violent responses to calls that do not need violent responses are no good. You need effective response.
Your opponents, Republican opponents, are simply going to say, when they hear you talking about 911 calls and different types of responses, well, you're defunding the police.
Well, what we've been hearing from people loud and clear across the city is that whether you're someone who wants to increase the police budget and have more officers, or you're on the other side of the spectrum, you want to defund or abolish. The reality is everyone is unhappy right now, everybody. And so our vision is one in which, yes, we have police officers that do respond to violent calls, but we have alternatives so that every single 911 call we know does not warrant an officer. We know, for example, the way we triage calls, it's not a police officer that's putting out a house fire. We have a firefighter doing that. And so we can think creatively and strategically in addressing a public safety system.
Many of us first heard of Mayor Frey back in 2020 after George Floyd's murder by the officers from the Minneapolis Police Department. Everyone saw his rather blundering response to the Black Lives Matter protests. He was booed out of one, I remember famously on camera. How would you have handled George Floyd's murder and the protests that came out of it differently to Mayor Frey if you had been mayor at the time?
I think not keeping things so insular within a select few and being very public and front-facing from the beginning. One of the larger issues that we had with the mayor is that he created such a toxic environment in how we discuss public safety, in which it's framed as if you're pro-police accountability, then you're anti-public safety. And we know that's just not the case. People want safe streets. People want their neighbors, their kids, their parents to be safe. We just lack a mayor that's willing to put in the work to do so.
Well, and also, like, there's a consent decree, right? Like, the Minneapolis Police Department, for those of you who don't know, in the wake of George Floyd, was supposed to be bound by, like, the courts to make specific changes. And Mayor Frey has, like, delayed that, has basically told the local MPD that they don't have to follow that decree, and has kicked it down the road and made it so that they don't have to actually adhere to that. So none of the changes after George Floyd have really stuck because of Jacob Frey. At least that's my understanding.
In July, The mayor told the New York Times, "I'm willing to tell our own side, even my own supporters, what they don't want to hear. I support constructive debate as opposed to conformity. I don't just take the most leftist position by default. I have not seen that in Senator Fateh." How do you respond to that criticism?
Well, my response is that what of my ideas have been extreme. At the Capitol, I've fought hard for workers, for renters, for students. I was proud to get accomplished things like the North Star Promise, which provided tuition-free college for working-class families. I led on the fight for the Uber and Lyft legislation, in which provided the strongest rideshare protections for our Uber and Lyft drivers in the nation, on top of increased wages. And so our message has been consistently about those that the city and state has been left behind, and also work for working families. And we don't think that there's anything extreme about that, and our neighbors don't either.
Liking this video? Then don't just watch, hit like, share and subscribe. And tap the bell so you never miss a video or live show.
Oh no, Brutus Magnuson, it is absolutely true that, like, Minneapolis police, like, will ignore calls from certain parts of the city. Like, especially the area around where George Floyd was killed. Like, they, like, Frey and a lot of the police just have left it to languish, left the area to languish, almost like they're trying to teach the people who live there a lesson. It's really weird and gross.
But if you want early access to exclusive...
Also, you all should give Zeteo your money. I would highly recommend it, because they do such good work, and all the love to Mediasan. And I'm going to just link this for you guys to reference this video, and also go support Zeteo's journalism.
Content, then you have to head to zeteo.com and subscribe now. You'll be supporting fearless, independent journalism. In 2024, Mayor Frey issued a record-breaking 8 vetoes as mayor, including he vetoed a ceasefire resolution and a statement of support for pro-Palestine student protesters. You yourself have called for a ceasefire, and the resolution passed 7-6 at the city council. Why do you think Frey ultimately issued these vetoes, and what would you be doing differently as mayor when it comes to pro-Palestine protests and discussion of Gaza and Israel?
Well, firstly, the mayor has created a toxic environment amongst community members and city council members as well. The issue is that rather than engaging in respectful dialogue, he's taken a my way or the highway approach, which has resulted in multiple vetoes, record number of vetoes. That could have been prevented if he did the work, meeting with all 13 ward city council members and putting in the effort to learn about the unique needs and the diversity of needs within each ward.
To answer a question I'm seeing in chat, is Frey a Zionist? Yeah, the Omar Fateh is very vocally against the genocide in Palestine. Jacob Frey is well, he vetoed the ceasefire resolution, and I think that tells you pretty clearly where he's at, right? I don't know if he gets money or what, but he has turned it into, instead of a unified call for an end to the fighting, he's decided to turn it into a political issue, again, vetoing a purely symbolic call for ceasefire. And it's pretty gross. Like, the media, local media here has kind of turned it into a circus around, oh, you know, like, oh, it's like you got the Zionists and the anti-Zionists fighting, and it's just, it's like all manufactured. We've got a pretty progressive city here. People here support an end to the genocide.
And the way I operate is that I engage with folks whether I agree with them or not. That's why our campaign has been endorsed by a whole slate of legislators at the Capitol, from the progressive wing to even the Blue Dog moderate caucus, in which we wanted to show that despite our differences, and we do at times have very strong differences, that we can work with anyone. In terms of how we go about our dialogue around Israel and Palestine, it is one that is respectful. I think that myself, being the Senate chair of the Higher Education Committee, I've heard from many students in which they want to create a sense of belonging. They want to have respectful dialogue and have leadership that meets their needs. But we've also seen that despite what you hear on social media and all the hateful comments, that our Jewish and our Muslim neighbors and students actually get along just great. And we actually have more folks that are able to call out what it is, a genocide, and speaking towards humanity and compassion.
How do you respond to some of the Jewish voters in Minneapolis, Jewish organizations, as you know, who say you're anti-Israel and that you're not the right mayor to fight anti-Semitism in this big city at this moment?
Well, I would argue that the majority of our residents, including our Jewish residents that I've encountered in Minneapolis, which makes us actually a unique city, is that they're very sympathetic to what's happening in Gaza in terms of the genocide. We just had recently a Jews for Fateh fundraiser last month, in which we had 90 to 100 Jewish neighbors come out and speaking towards some of their own experiences within the city, but also how we can connect with one another. From my personal experience, I've seen, for example, when there's an act of anti-Muslim hate in one of our mosques or our areas of worship, that is actually more Jewish neighbors and non-Muslim neighbors that show up than Muslims to these press conferences and to these events. And so we're a city and neighborhoods that care for one another.
This is actually super true. As a local, like, whenever something happens to like a business or to people, whenever like there's a hate crime or, you know, a tragedy, this community comes together. Like, people in this city turn out for the vigils. They turn out to support folks who are in mourning. They turn out to help clean up, businesses that have been broken into. They turn out to like be there for one another in a way that like genuinely matters. You know, it is something to know that you are not alone. And sometimes those actions can be symbolic. Sometimes they can be material, people showing up with food or material goods. Sometimes it can be, symbolic, like all around the area near where that church was shot up, and the kids were killed. There are still, it's been a while now. There are still like banners of support lining the streets near there, and still houses putting up banners and showing support for the families who were affected by that. Like, it is relatively tight knit, and yeah, you get the Minnesota nice element of performative niceness, but there is a genuine care and affection for those in our communities who are different from ourselves. It's something that I think extends in a lot of different directions, both from the Jewish community to the Muslim community, but also from the Muslim community to like the Christian community, and to from the Christian community to like the Jewish community. Like, it is mutual, and it goes beyond just like religious affiliation as well.
You're running on increasing the minimum wage, making housing more affordable, reducing the cost of public colleges and universities. Now, voters in America, we're told often, are scared of a socialist candidate, don't like socialism. These are relatively popular policies when you look at the polls. How has your campaign messaged around this stuff? Do you talk openly about being a socialist? Do people say, I don't want a socialist, but I like your policies?
Well, when MAGA extremists attack us, and also at times the establishment Democrats, it's because they're scared. They're scared of the multiracial working class coalition that has been rising up in Minneapolis and in Minnesota. And they're scared of having a city where ordinary people have real power. They try to turn the words DSA or socialist into a slur. But again, what we have been asking is, what's scary about having our people and our neighbors get everything that they need to.
Omar is not socialist. Omar Fateh is literally a socialist.
To survive and thrive. Things like safe housing, fair wages, dignity in the workplace. To us,
in this case, he's run openly as a socialist for multiple elections.
That's not radical. That's common sense. And I'm not here, and we're not here to prop up the status quo. We're here to upend it, and we're here to build a city that finally works for the people that historically is left behind.
You've been the subject of some pretty racist, Islamophobic comments from the right since you announced your mayoral run.
By the way, if any of you remember Matt Walsh harping on about the lady in Minnesota who like raised a bunch of money after she said the N-word to like a child in a public park. Matt Walsh has been attacking Omar Fateh pretty regularly. Last I checked, it's disgusting.
The late Charlie Kirk responded to your announcement by saying,
and of course it goes beyond just Matt Walsh, but figure Matt Walsh is worth referencing.
"You need to watch this and then commit to stopping all third world immigration to America." You were obviously born in the United States of America. "Last week, someone vandalized your campaign office writing, 'Somali Muslim, this warning is no joke,' on a window." You were born in the US. You are a citizen of this country, born and raised here. You're a resident of Minneapolis. You're a member of the state Senate. What was it like seeing some of this racist, Islamophobic, and untrue propaganda thrown your way?
Well, the things that my campaign and I have experienced is not unique to me. Minnesota has experienced some of the most anti-Muslim hate in our nation. Last year in 2024, there were 16 acts of violence against mosques. And in the last 3 years, I believe that there has been 40 in total, with millions in damages, which also included 3 mosques being fully burned down. To put things into perspective, compared to the rest of the nation, for example, Minnesota had 16 incidents, while California only had 5, according to CARE. Which, by the way, Minnesota is also the only state in which we had a mosque that had been bombed, which occurred in 2017. So I think that there's targeting that's occurring here because of the election of very visible and very visibly Muslim people like Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Yeah. And the successes of Muslims here make the hate towards Muslims around the country targeted here. We were the state that first elected the first Muslim congressman, Keith Ellison, in 2006.
Yes.
And we also know that Islamophobia is also racialized. Minnesota has some of the poorest and most black Muslims in the nation. Not to say that we're not welcoming here, but there is also targeting because of our success.
Earlier this week, the Minnesota chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations called for an investigation of a possible hate crime following a fire at the Al-Hikmah Mosque in Minneapolis. What's your reaction to that news? And do you think the mayor, do you think the federal and state governments are taking Islamophobia seriously enough?
I think there's a lot of work to do to be able to take it more serious. And what we have seen in this election, not only in Minnesota, but across the country, is that Republicans have been a problem, but Democrats are a problem too at times. And they have been beating the same drum as Republicans, especially during election season, as Republicans about the fear-mongering of Muslims. So we know that despite our success, our story has not been fully told and fully heard, that Muslims here are working class, mostly not affluent, but we worked hard to organize and elect folks across the various levels of government. And if there's anything radical about Muslims, it's that we have a radical inclusiveness to us. And we have proven time and time again that Muslims can be leaders here in Minneapolis and across the nation.
And I just want to point out, like, it does take an amazing amount of perseverance to enter into politics in Minnesota as like a Somali American. Like it's difficult. Like there is a lot of prejudice here against the Somali community. You know, like a lot of Somali refugees came here and like had to start from scratch and like work their way up and like build up power in their working class communities. And it has been a long struggle and a continuing one, right? Like there is like a real ongoing effort here to build power in a way that is admirable and in a way that is sustainable. And that's the kind of movement we should all be looking at when it comes to our own necks of the woods. Like, how can we emulate that type of power building? And like, how can we be there for one another and also for this community that has worked so hard? I think that these are all really valid questions. And I think that like Omar Fateh provides us a way to work towards that goal, right?
Even in Canada, there's space for Muslim candidates.
Yeah, David Sake, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs.
So the late Charlie Kirk, who we're told never insulted anyone, also tweeted that Muslims are commanded to take over the government in the land they live. The attempted Islamic takeover of America is made possible thanks to mass migration. Nowhere in your campaign have you mentioned an Islamic takeover of America. You don't even talk about Islam in your campaign, but your religion has become a major point of contention. And yet many Republicans...
The fact that he's become a political celebrity is huge. I mean, I don't think that he's a political celebrity. He's just a political figure who is doing something unique and embracing a unique brand of politics to a great deal of success. I don't know that I would describe him as a celebrity. I don't think he seeks celebrity. I think he is focused on doing the best he can for the people of Minneapolis. And I think that that's how it should be, right? Like, he should be seeking what's best for his city. And it's just as a consequence of doing that and doing a good job of it, he is being, talked about in the national media. And so I'm talking about him because I live here and this is important to me and has real material effects on how I live my life. And because I'm asking you guys for help, I'm asking you guys to organize with me to help him get elected so that we can further these slates of policies elsewhere around the country. We can help each other. You guys help me get this guy elected, and then we help each other. I help you get a socialist elected, and you help me get a socialist elected, and we help each other get more socialists elected so that we can all embrace a world where the worker is respected and can lead a decent life.
Openly campaign on making America a Christian nation. What do you make of that double standard?
Well, we know that it's been ongoing. And myself, I'm proud to have been the first Muslim elected to the Minnesota Senate in our state's history. There has been consistent ongoing hate directed towards us through social media like Twitter and so on, from folks like you mentioned, Charlie Kirk and Lauren Barber, calling us too radical and too extreme. But this is Islamophobia that we have seen ongoing, not just myself, but like I said, for all of our Muslim elected officials. And unfortunately, there hasn't been a strong enough pushback from our elected leaders, especially Democratic leaders, which to us has seemed to have enabled this kind of hate and allowed it to persist.
Do you worry about your security right now? There's a lot of hate coming your way.
Absolutely, not just for myself, but for my wife. We have a newborn at home, a 1-month-old Imran, that we're blessed to have, and we've been in conversations with Senate leadership about what we can do to protect ourselves. We've been seeing ongoing hate through our Senate emails, voicemails, on social media, getting calls from the FBI about posts that I have not even seen myself, but they've been hearing and worrying about, saying we're monitoring this. And so it's unfortunate that this kind of hate has been ongoing, again, because we have a president at the top that has enabled this and has created a political climate in which it is okay to target Muslims.
Do you agree? I mean, you're a victim of Charlie Kirk's bigotry, which we're told we're not allowed to talk about anymore because he was killed in a very brutal way. Do you agree with Ezra Klein of the New York Times, who said Charlie Kirk practiced politics the right way?
I do not. Charlie Kirk has consistently attacked not only Muslims, but some of our most vulnerable communities. And yes, it is not good to speak ill of the dead, but we can speak factually about some of the mistakes and some of the hateful rhetoric that has been told. I think that history cannot be erased, and I think it's actually very dangerous to overlook that. We have to be upfront in confronting hate, regardless of who it is, and we cannot stay silent in the face of it.
So obviously a lot of the critiques of you are racist, Islamophobic, in bad faith. But let's just talk about a legitimate good faith critique of you, of Zoran Mamdani, of others, which is you're young. I think you're 35 years old. You've been in elected office just a few years, like Zoran Mamdani. What experience?
Yeah, like, he's so good at this, right? Like, I think maybe one of the more salient criticisms of his performance as a candidate is simply Like he has a soft-spoken nature to him, which, I don't think is bad, but when it comes to performative politics, and like performing in a way that can engage people, he doesn't excel at like the loud, rousing speeches, But that being said, like, he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to be good at that. And frankly, I think it's good if we have some political leadership that isn't that.
Experience, what qualifications, and I asked Zoran Mamdani the same question, what experience and qualifications do you have as a state senator in office for just 4 years, 35 years old, to be mayor of a city with 500,000 people and a $2 billion budget?
I've been honored to serve the last 5 years in the Minnesota State Senate, also as the chair of the Senate Higher Education Committee. Some of the concerns you raised is also some of the questions I've experienced on the campaign trail. And what I've been telling folks is that, well, our current mayor was also 35 years old when he first ran for mayor and won after serving one 4-year term in the city council. But the difference between us is that I have the experience on not only being a senator, but delivering on some of the most transformational pieces of legislation in our state's history, like I said, the strongest rideshare protections for our Uber and Lyft drivers, tuition-free college for working-class families, the legalization of fentanyl testing strips, in which in the first year, Hennepin County provided 1 million testing strips to folks in the county. And I can go on. And that's because...
to be clear, that has probably saved a not insignificant number of lives.
Our leadership and my leadership in the Senate has been rooted in community and working with people rather than keeping our power insular and within a select few.
Before we finish, we've got to talk about some of the craziness surrounding your race and the endorsement that was then rescinded. You won the endorsement of the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party, the Democratic Party in the state, the DFL. It was the party's first endorsement in a mayor's race for 16 years. Then Mayor Frey's campaign challenged the endorsement, saying the electronic voting system used at the convention did not count hundreds of votes. And then they revoked your endorsement. What's your reaction to all of that?
Well, here in Minnesota, for our local elections, we don't have a primary process. We have a caucus and convention process. At the caucus, we out-organized the incumbent and every other campaign. We brought out thousands of neighbors from all 13 wards, many of whom have never caucused before. We walked away with the most delegates, and we went to the convention. And on the first ballot, we came out on top. We came out with 43% of the delegates, with the mayor coming second with 31%. Now they're concerned about having a little over 100 delegates not being counted on the first ballot. Is very valid, and it could have been a valid argument. But the problem is that every step of the way, every campaign throughout the convention was kept up to date on what was happening throughout the tallying. After the first ballot, the parliamentarians put forward a motion to the delegates asking, do we want to redo this first vote, or do you want to move on to the second ballot? Overwhelmingly, almost the entirety of the delegation wanted to move on to a second ballot, in which we did. The mayor then had staged a walkout with his delegates, thinking that they could break quorum, in which they didn't, and then we won on that second.
Which, by the way, that's some of the funniest shit. Like, if you're gonna stage a walkout, make sure you have enough to actually accomplish your goal, right? Like, Mayor Frey tried to do the walkout and failed, so like the caucus kept going. It's crazy. And like the other caucus that was happening at the same time was also insane. Like, just Minneapolis politics, man, crazy.
Second ballot. But I think what's interesting about that is that every other race within that convention was upheld. We were the only campaign, we were the only election in which our endorsement was stripped away through, by the way, the exact same means as the other candidates and other campaigns.
Walk out with your cock out.
Whoa. You only walk out with your cock out when you've got a construction project to do. And there are only a handful of construction projects to do here in Minneapolis. Number 1, road construction. Number 2, more road construction. Number 3, light rail construction. but that's going to take at least 100 years to finish.
What we saw was that there were 28 party insiders and establishment Democrats, including many Frey donors and supporters, that met privately through the committee to overturn this.
Yeah, and that's what's really important, Shakespeare. Like this man has been consistent as hell. Like you love to see it. Like that's one of the things that is nice about someone who has a track record in politics. You can kind of see how they've behaved in the past and can extrapolate from there how they're going to behave in the future. You know, if somebody is a completely unknown quantity, that's one of the reasons why folks want to know what you did, what you did in politics previously, so they can kind of like extrapolate from that. And I think this is good.
Endorsement using as an excuse.
So just to be clear, because you said it was a fair criticism of the hundreds missing, and now you're saying it was donors. Was it illegitimate, the rescinding of the endorsement in your view?
Well, it was a legitimate issue that over 100 votes had not been tallied. But because of the convention process, we had two options: redo the vote a second time, or go on to a second ballot. The delegation felt that the results would have played out the exact same way regardless.
But they didn't do that.
They did not do that because the mayor and his team made motion after motion trying to delay as much as possible the convention, hoping that it could shut down.
Do you need the DFL's endorsement to win?
What we have seen so far is that, number one, it was nice to get the resources from the DFL party and be DFL endorsed, and we worked hard to do so. Outside of my campaign, I think it spoke poorly about what happened because it took thousands of hours by many volunteers that made the caucus and convention process possible. But what we have seen is that the revocation has backfired. We've seen increase in volunteers. We have over 1,300 volunteers signed up to door knock. We've seen our donations skyrocket with small dollar donations, and name recognition also increased. And so we've been hearing on the doors that folks are ready for something new, and they're really upset about what happened at the DFL convention.
Okay. One last question to you. One of your campaign promises is to stand up to Donald Trump. What role do leaders at the state, the municipal level play in pushing back against Trump's policies, in your view? If Trump were to threaten funding, as he is doing with New York right now, to Minneapolis, federal funding because you're not complying with, say, ICE, or Minneapolis' status as a sanctuary city, how would Mayor Fateh handle that situation?
Well, as you put it, with Trump back in office, the progress that we've made for all of our communities is in great jeopardy. What I believe is that our city must act as a last line of defense, working in partnership with our county and state more than ever. And that's something that our mayor has not done. We saw ICE raid in South Minneapolis just this past June 3rd, and we saw ICE thanking MPD for their work with them. And I think that's troubling because we should be a sanctuary city. I'm the chair of the Senate Higher Education Committee, and I've seen firsthand students being picked up by ICE on our campuses, sometimes in the dead of night, with families not knowing where they're being taken to, their lawyers not knowing where they're being taken to, and campus presidents and college presidents worrying about speaking out or providing services out of fear of retaliation and losing funding. So now we're at a point in which we have a federal government telling us that we either have to sacrifice our values or risk losing funding. I think we cannot sacrifice our values because that would set a very dangerous precedent, and that would speak negatively towards all of our communities. We know we can't do this alone. We need to work cross-jurisdictionally, but we need to also work with our immigrant rights organizations that have been the boots on the ground organizations that have been providing things like know your rights counseling, legal counseling, support for our undocumented students and families in our public schools. But we also have to set clear consequences for law enforcement whenever they violate our city's separation ordinance.
Omar Fateh, thank you for...
That's right. That's right. They gonna break that ordinance? You get them. They get got. It really is one of those things where, like, this guy can do it. This guy can actually take the fight all the way up. And I think we need to take the fight all the way up. You know, like, this can't be something where we elect Mayor Frey or Mayor Frey again, and then he just, what does he do? He just lets ICE waltz in does nothing, sits on his hands. Like, we can't abide that. We can't afford that here in Minneapolis. You know, it's already been terrifying that they're like ghosting people away in various parts of the city. Like, that's already bad. It's already something that cannot be like abided. And so, folks, once again, I'm going to ask you guys, if you are available on October 27th from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Central Time, or Sunday, November 2nd, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Central Time, I'm going to ask you guys, hey, phone bank for Omar Fateh. This man's got the juice. This man can do it. He is, at least at the end of August, was only 5 points behind Jacob Frey. All right? So I'm going to link one more time and ask you guys to click on that link and make a commitment to phone bank on one of those days. You can do it from anywhere in the country. It is possible. It is, you can have a good time. And I would just encourage you all to actually turn out. We can, in fact, do this everywhere. We don't have to think of ourselves as just knocking doors and phone banking in our own local communities. We can also knock on doors and phone bank in other people's communities. We can, in fact, stand in solidarity with one another. And I figure to end this, we're going to play one of his older campaign videos here that I quite like. Just throw this up here.
We all start our days in different ways, but we're all trying to get to the same place. A vibrant city filled with the love of family, friends, and neighbors. That's what makes Minneapolis home. We choose to live here. We raise our families here. We start our businesses here. We make our lives here. We work hard for the city we love. And we deserve a city that works as hard as we do. I'm Senator Omar Fateh, and I'm running for mayor of Minneapolis. From the streets to City Hall, Minneapolis is full of people with big ideas. But we don't have a mayor ready to invest in the long-term solutions that bring security to our communities. Imagine a city where everyone has access to the right public safety services at the right time. Imagine a city that invests in public education for every student. Imagine a city that backs all of its workers fighting for fair wages. But I don't want you to just imagine that city. I want you to live it. As a Minnesota senator,
you never need a phone bank for Kirsten Gellibrand. She already had that covered.
Very true, Sake Tanuki. Thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. God, I hate that lady.
I've written and passed bills that made a real difference in the lives of working people, and I'm ready to bring that leadership to Minneapolis. When the city invests in you, you have more time to invest in the people you love. Block by block, you're already building the city you want to see. It's time you had a mayor willing to work alongside you. And I'm ready for us to build a city that works for everyone.
It's nice. Dude's got it. We just need the oomph to get him across the finish line. So let's fucking do it. And remember, folks, if you have been enjoying this, like, comment, and subscribe. Support the show. And I'll see you next time.
Riverboat Jack is going to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.